tela cheia, prévia, janela.
Galera, hoje, dia 22, temos um evento maravilhoso do Gears of War, através da Unreal Engine, canal oficial deles, e também aqui no canal da Game Awards. E também aqui no nosso canal também teremos aqui ao vivo. Só que eu estava vendo aqui umas informações da Double Finder e outros estúdios da mão da Microsoft vão fechar.
Hi everyone, welcome to Unreal Fest. Are you ready? Let's go. Thank you so much for joining us here in Chicago, and thanks to everyone watching on the live stream. Once again, we're joined by luminaries from AAA game studios, indie teams, Fortnite creators, and filmmakers who are all shaping the future of entertainment. And we've got innovators from robotics, architecture, automotive, and so many more industries who are taking the power of Unreal to new frontiers. There are over 100 sessions and hands-on labs to choose from. So if you don't have the event app yet, take a quick snap of this QR code, download it, and build your plan for the next 2 days. Be sure to check out all the demos and games on the expo floor. Swing by the Learning Theater along with the Dev Lounge, where you can get some technical help from our team. So we're here to celebrate your success and give you a glimpse of where we're headed in the future. We have a lot of great stuff to show, but just a heads up, we're not doing a live tech demo on stage this year. The team's been really hard at
Não
work
vai ter uma tech
making an
demo
awesome new engine
ao
release,
vivo nesse
building
momento,
the foundation of
nesse ano, melhor
Unreal
dizendo.
Engine 6, which you'll hear more about later.
Ainda hoje vamos falar um pouco mais da Unreal Engine
We want to
6
give a shout out
também.
to a few groundbreaking projects. Last year, just before Unreal Fest, Sandfall Interactive released Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which, give it up, which became the breakout hit of 2025. And now, a year later, the game has received over 500 awards, the most awarded game in history.
Que 500
Congratulations to the team
prêmios o
for all
estúdio
the achievements,
recebeu.
and we can't wait to see what's next. Arc Raiders is another huge
Em
success
ano.
story. From October to February, the extraction shooter sold more than 14 million copies. Embark built the game's massive open world, leveraging UE5 and Epic Online Services voice chat capabilities to give millions of players an awesome social experience at a peak scale of 960,000 concurrent users. K-pop Demon Hunters was the most watched movie in Netflix history, winning 2 Academy Awards, a landmark moment for the animation industry. Sony Pictures Animation and Imageworks transformed their pipeline by moving to real-time.
O problema, galera, é que a Unreal não roda no meu PC. Até posso instalar ela, só que não roda.
Months of work saved. And because the team used real-time ready assets in production, we were able to pull off a
Nem
Fortnite
sequer
collab
a
in record
Unity
time.
também
This
não
was a
roda.
full ecosystem
São
moment
muito
kicked off
potentes.
with a Demon Rush limited time mode, and it continued across Blitz, Reload, and Zero Build, with cosmetics in the item shop. We did all of this and launched UEFN developer tools in 2 months. Unreal continues to gain momentum beyond entertainment. SAS is an enterprise leader in enterprise analytics, AI, and data management. They're developing incredibly complex Unreal Engine digital twin simulations across industrial manufacturing, worker safety, life sciences, and other industries. Now, these digital twins help businesses make operational decisions in simulation before a single machine moves, a single worker is put at risk, or a single dollar is spent on the wrong configuration. All of this, games, animation, and enterprise solutions built on Unreal Engine 5. Now, we revealed UE5 6 years ago. Since then, release by release, we've shipped many features required to deliver stunning, high-fidelity open worlds running at 60 frames per second. We've also been working to unlock real workflow improvements so you can create faster and more efficiently. Nanite minimized
Ninja Theory
manual LOD
e
pipeline.
outros estúdios
Lumen nearly eliminated light
da
peaking.
Microsoft estão ser fechados.
MetaHuman reduced the time
Que
to
uma
make
nessa
great-looking
chama.
characters from months to days to even minutes.
Não tem nesse evento, vou mostrar para vocês aqui o agora que me falou mais cedo.
Complex character performances in engine without leaving the editor. World Partition made streaming massive open worlds possible without leaning on critical engineering resources. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years since the launch of UE5, but it's inspiring to see what you've done. To share what's in our latest release, please welcome Mon Ami Simon Tourangeau.
Mon Ami. Mon Ami. Ai.
Thanks, Bill. Good morning. It's great to be back to share the latest on Unreal Engine. Over the last few releases, the feedback we've heard most from studios is make it fast.
Que engraçado o nome do cara, Mon
So
Ami.
we've been focused on exactly that, performance. Take 5.7. We improved performance by up to 25% on the GPU and up to 35% on the CPU, giving you smoother frame rates. Today, we're releasing Unreal Engine 5.8, which is all about building on that momentum to give you more headroom, fewer hitches, and less friction between an idea and what you can actually ship.
Correr um momento para levar isso aqui na
A big
cozinha.
part of 5.8 is maturity.
Ei, não.
Systems that were experimental or beta in previous releases are now crossing the line into production readiness. The headliner is megalights. Thousands of dynamic shadow casting lights and area lights in a scene at a fixed cost. What used to be a performance lift becomes a creative tool. Artists can light with fewer compromises, and teams can spend less time budgeting every dynamic light. Around it, LiveLink Hub, Movie Render Graph, Chaos Cloud authoring through Dataflow, Audio Insights, and Iris are production ready too. We also made it simpler to scale to the different platforms. Lumen, our dynamic global illumination system, now has a lightweight mode called Lumen Light, designed to preserve much of the visual impact at a significantly lower GPU cost. That makes Lumen viable where it wasn't before,
5.8.
including on Switch 2. And that work is already helping drive further nanite optimization efforts for the platform. Now, let's talk about something every
O problema é que no meu PC isso não roda nem ferrando.
Yeah,
Até instala, mas não roda. Eu teria dois pentes de 32 GB cada um no meu PC para poder conseguir rodar Unreal.
A huge part of that problem is shaders. So we've sharpened the compiler and improved deduplication to strip out redundant work. Less to compile, less to load, less getting in your way.
Se meu PC tivesse mais buracos para meter mais
faster cooks, faster loads, lighter memory.
mais pentes,
Jason and John's talk tomorrow go
seria bom, mas
on how
só
they
tem
got
4 buracos.
But shaders are only half the story. The other half is pipeline state objects, or PSOs.
Então,
A PSO is the bundle the GPU needs to draw an effect. Shaders, blend modes, render state, all of it. Miss one at runtime, and the driver has to assemble and compile it on the spot. That's your hitch. And those are the bugs that are notoriously hard to hunt. Luckily, we have just the guy to do it.
Legacy.
So in 5.8, we've improved PSO pre-caching. Fallback rendering is far less visible while PSOs are still compiling. And the whole system is easier to tune,
Legacy,
debug,
do
and
Harry
profile.
Potter. Acho que foi rodado também na Unreal
These are
Engine.
not
Foi
flashy
na
changes,
Unreal.
but if you've been chasing itches, you'll feel the difference the first time you boot. And we're not done. We're working with Microsoft and hardware partners on advanced shader delivery, a DirectX 12 initiative that allows us to ship pre-compiled shaders to players, moving more shader work out of the player's runtime experience. The rollout is ramping, and we'll let you know more about this soon.
Trabalha com Microsoft é perda de tempo, Unreal.
Now, here's a brand new experimental feature we're shipping in 5.8, Mesh Terrain. We wanted to move beyond the limits of height map-based landscapes where every point can only move in one direction, and the fixed grid means you can't adjust the resolution to add detail or optimize areas. Mesh Terrain is a new way to author complex terrain without being locked to a height field.
E se
And
focar
it's
só,
more than just a mesh.
trabalha só com a
It's
PlayStation e
partitioned
Nintendo.
for collaborative workflows, supports
pessoal da
world
Unreal
partition streaming,
e outras,
it's
outras
designed to
empresas.
scale across
Nenhum tem que trabalhar com a
platforms
Microsoft.
using the same source assets while tuning the
Estragam
runtime
tudo que toca.
representation for each platform using Nanite when available. With Mesh Terrain, you have full 3D manipulation capabilities. Overhangs, tunnels, floating islands, shapes you simply couldn't build before. And because it's mesh-based, you can also control tessellation
Então,
at
da
the
leve mostrar
triangle
que
level. That means adding
o
detail
Grok me
exactly
falou
where it
aqui.
matters, while saving memory and performance where it doesn't. As you'd expect, you can paint material layers, but also additional attributes, and it supports virtual texture with automatic UV generation. Mesh
E
Terrain uses
lembrando, amanhã
non-destructive
temos
modifiers
a
and
música do
procedural
meu amor,
tooling,
amanhã tá
so
legal
iteration
hein?
becomes dramatically easier. Everything can be layered, reordered, combined, and adjusted at any point in time. So you
Campeão
can
de hockey.
literally move mountains. It also works natively with PCG and comes with an expanded modeling toolset. But best of all, in our ongoing Fortnite optimization efforts, Mesh Terrain has a smaller memory footprint and runs faster than Landscape. Higher quality, lighter costs, more creative and technical freedom. That's Mesh Terrain.
Mesh Terrain.
Another big focus of 5.8 is helping you
do
go faster from
Fortnite.
idea to result. Performance capture has matured to scale from one operator at a desk to a full mocap stage with control over every recording device on set, including video. And we're taking that further. Earlier this year, Meshcapade joined Epic, bringing world-leading technology for markerless motion capture from video. We've already started integrating it into the ecosystem, and today we are releasing the MetaHuman Animator markerless motion capture plugin on Fab. You can drive a character's body, face, and hands from regular video. No suits, no markers, video in, animation out. For animators
Legal, galera, essa coisa
pursuing
de
feature
captura de
quality,
movimento.
this is our most significant animation release yet. We've made high-end animation workflows more interactive, more intuitive, and more connected to the creative process. From sculpting directly on stylized rigs,
Será que no Godot
controls
a mesma
that
coisa?
live on the character itself, to a simplified timeline that keeps you focused on the performance. These are the same tools our animation team uses every day, and now they're available to everyone, and we're releasing the sample with 5.8. On the cinematic side, offline depth of field gets a major upgrade. We now render the blur the way a real
Se não estou
camera
enganado, a última versão que eu olhei na Epic Games, ele estava 5.7, coisa assim.
Even on translucency and thin geometry. For productions working with ultra-high resolution media, the new tiled MIPMAP video format gives you compressed video that holds up at scale. It only decodes the tiles and MIP level your viewport actually needs, so you don't pay to process pixels no one is looking at.
O problema, maior problema de todos é que o meu PC não roda esse Unreal.
In the Unreal Fest app. And if 5.8 is about reducing friction across the
Podia fazer meu próprio jogo sonhado.
we're starting to do that, how people interact with the editor itself. But tell you more, here's Michael. Thank you.
Meu xará?
Thanks, Simon. Now, at times, making games can be hard.
Estamos quase igual, hein, xará? Quase cara com os dois,
What
hein?
you can imagine, what you can make, is held back by technical overhead. I don't know about you, but spending hours in a node graph trying to untangle and understand what's going on just to change one thing is not my idea of creativity. There has to be a better way to do this. So that's what we've been working on. Tools that enable you to build faster and iterate more. Now, Unreal has been built on a simple idea: your source, your pipeline, your workflow. Give developers complete control over the tools and get out of the way. That philosophy hasn't changed. We're just applying it to large language models. Now in 5.8, we've implemented an MCP server that acts as a bridge between Unreal and any model that you want. For this presentation,
Ó,
we're
combinação
going to be
entre
using
Unreal e
Cloud Code.
outro modelo que você
You
quer
can use
usar.
Gemini, your own custom model, whatever you want. Enabling the
Até
Unreal
o Gemini
MCP
tá
is as
incluído.
simple as turning on the plugin, doing a bit of config, and connecting to the model of your choice.
Olha só que legal.
And everything you're about to see today runs on that setup. Now, these are still early days, and models will still do some really unpredictable things. However, with this approach, we maintain the ability to go in and edit as you would any Unreal scene. Okay, let's see this in action. On the left, we have Unreal Engine. On the right is a terminal running Cloud Code. You can see every message going back and forth. Cloud Code is talking to Unreal through the MCP server, reading the scene, and taking actions directly inside the engine. So let's start with something small, a modern living room. We start by giving the model some context, what we want to build, and whereabouts in the level. And to make sure everyone can follow along, we're showing a summarized version of each prompt as we go. But if you want the full details, you can still see that in the terminal window. We're going to speed things up from here for presentation purposes, but everything you're seeing is real work happening inside the engine. So we can ask for the basics, a sofa, a rug, and a coffee table. Then fill it in with chairs, a lamp, and a side table. Semantic search, which is part of the 5.8 release, pulls assets from your library that fit that description. And because this is Unreal, we can also manually add a chair, describe it as a reading nook, and the model will furnish the room accordingly. Every step here is a creative decision that you're making. Models are good at broad iterations. You're
Dá
good
vontade
at
de
doing exactly
olhar.
what you want. Those same principles work whether you're furnishing a room or whether you want to scale up and build an entire city. So let's take that same approach and build a city. You start by drawing the boundary. From there, you can decide where the districts go and what characteristics each one has. Highways cut through on your direction, and from those, the road network starts to fill in. Buildings come up. The model here is using semantic search to find the right assets from your library and place them in the level. Ask for a forest around the edge.
Ó, trabalha com a tua
and it can fill that
biblioteca,
in.
o motor.
At every step, you're making the calls. And what do you end up with? It's not a rendered image. It's real geometry, real procedural content generation graphs that you can open, edit, and modify.
Tu precisa só para Unreal para poder fazer isso aí.
Other developers can work on their own sessions, building assets and dropping them straight into the city.
É muito maneiro.
The road network adjusts, the blocks update, and the city absorbs it. Different people, different sessions, and it all works together. So how does all of this actually work? With the MCP server as the bridge between Unreal and your model, it gives your model the ability to read your scene, understand your assets, and make changes directly in the engine.
Então, se
Because it's
Unreal,
open,
pode trabalhar
you're
com
not
qualquer
locked
outro
into
motor
any
que
particular
você
model or workflow.
trabalhe.
Now,
Até com a
while large
Unity,
language models are great at
Godoy
language
e
reasoning,
entre outras.
they don't naturally think spatially. Unreal does. To help connect the two, we're giving you over 80 foundational procedural content generation building blocks, a library of examples, and skills that encode specific Unreal workflows. Now, this is experimental, and it's going to keep getting
Isso é
better.
experimental, ele falou.
This is where you come in. Tell us what's working, tell us what's not. That's how
Diga
we're
que está
gonna
trabalhando. Aí entra onde
Now
entra
that the city is
vocês.
built, we want to light it.
Provem,
Getting lighting right
diga
on
o que
Unreal is a skill that
você
means touching dozens of parameters that
vê que
all
está
need to work
trabalhando
together.
e o que não está
Light balance, cloud
trabalhando.
materials, sky atmosphere, post-process. That's a lot to know.
É
By
muito.
creating a dedicated lighting skill, you just describe what you want, and the model orchestrates that all for you.
Então você vai escrever para o modelo
Ask for a
o que
purple
você
dusk,
quer que ele faça.
and
Ele
there it
vai
is.
lá e faz. Olha só.
Under the hood, it's adjusting all those settings in concert. Then we can ask for overcast
Então, quer dizer que dá
skies.
para fazer meu jogo então de boa.
This is
Então
an
é.
example of how the model gets things wrong. It misread the sky and tweaked the cloud material the wrong way. But you can see
Meu
exactly what
sonho
happened.
é ter meu
Correct it
próprio
in the
jogo,
next
hein, galera.
prompt, and you're right back to where you want to be. Because models also
Nesse
have
estilo assim,
real-world
mais ou
knowledge,
menos,
you can just say,
de gráfico.
Bogota at 9:30 in the morning.
Ou
And it will go and figure out
estilo
the sun
anime.
position, direction, temperature, and atmosphere that actually matches that. And if you want to match something specific, you can take an image. So here we used one of Vancouver, and ask it to replicate that look.
Ó,
Use a
mostrou
screenshot
Vancouver, agora
to
vai
assess
mandar
copyright
replicar
until it gets
Vancouver.
there. And everything is still editable. Grab a road and move it, the city adjusts around it. Ask it to make a building taller or more prominent in the scene, and it does that. But then you can go in and modify any individual asset, making it exactly the way that you want it. This isn't a generated image.
Dá pra
that
você
you're
até
stuck
entrar
with.
no prédio,
It's a
isso que eu
real scene
entendi,
in Unreal, and you control
e
every
ver
part of it.
como é por dentro.
Now, let's look at one intersection. We wanted to add a hazard zone, flashing lamps, steam, and a sense of danger as the player gets close. That normally means days of back and forth across multiple disciplines. So here's what we did instead. The warning lamp already
Vamos
has
fazer uma
material.
brincadeirinha no final do vídeo.
Let's say you want to add something to it. You ask
Com
the model
Grok.
to read the existing graph, build the new logic, and insert it right where it needs to go. You can then jump into
Mas
the
eu
material
não,
instance
vamos me
editor
segurar com essa
and
brincadeirinha.
tweak the final
Vamos
values by hand.
mais lá na frente.
Then you take a Niagara template and extend it, adding a single parameter that drives multiple emitters at once, giving you control over the whole effect in one place.
Ó,
You build out the HUD through
fumaça,
prompting and
deixa eu ver
UMG,
ali.
status display, danger meter, warning states. Then blueprint logic ties it all together. A proximity trigger connected to the
Fumaça,
material,
fogo,
the Niagara system, and the
Tudo
HUD.
que se
Walk in,
replicar na
everything
Unreal eles
fires at
fazem.
once. All right, so let's run it. Lamps are off, it's
Vamos
quiet.
correr.
She walks toward the site, the lamps come on, the steam starts rising. She steps inside, lamps are flashing, steam's pouring in, and the site is erupting. What we've shown here today would take months to build by hand. But with the MCP server and Unreal, our artists were able to make all of this in days. When you lower the
É
technical
você,
friction,
isso que
you can
estão
iterate
mostrando
more
agora
and
nessa
make better
demo,
games.
em
That's what we've
dias.
built. This is really just a starting
Em
point.
poucas palavras, pode ser
Bring your own
5
primitives, your own examples,
dias,
your own skills built around your
6
ideas.
semanas, até
The
mais,
more
mais
your
ou
team
menos.
puts in over time, the more useful it
Vai
gets for
depender
everyone
muito
on
da
the
tua
project.
habilidade.
We're shipping the MCP server, the PCG primitive plugin, and the skills we've developed as part of 5.8 today. It's open, and it's yours to extend. Go download it, point your model at it, and see what you can do. If you want to go deeper, we've got 2 chances to catch our Tech Talk here at Fest. Come find us. Now I'm going to hand it over to Pat to talk about how some of what I've
Patrick
shown
agora, vamos com o Patrick.
impacts linear content creation in the engine.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Pat Tubach. I've got a background in film and television.
Ó,
Media and entertainment, the
o background
MCP
dele é
plugin
focado
Michael just showed you opens up a
em-
wide range of new connections to
em
LLMs,
televisão
but
e
also to image
filmes.
and video models like Nano Banana, GPT Image, Grok Imagine, Luma,
Ó, tudo que trabalha com
Sequence,
imagem, Grok,
Michael will tell you
GPT,
about tools in the present, and I'm gonna cover
entre
tools for
outras, ele
creating linear content that
é
we're releasing
o
early
foco
next
dele
year
também.
that give you control over these models. The standard approach
Então
using
ele
an
quer
image model
que as
is to start by
engines, a gente
crafting a
usa o
text
Grok,
prompt.
Grok
In this
GPT,
case, I wrote a novel describing a
e
fictional
possam
scene
ter
at
acesso
Henrik
ao
Motors,
Unreal.
a 1950s gas station. But in professional situations,
Aí botou
where you
o
have to
roteiro
hit
dele,
story
ó.
points, match exact
Pra
continuity
botar
to
na
deliver what your creative
Unreal
director wants, you would typically communicate
para
visually
fazer
your
o que ele
sketches
está
and previews.
mandando.
Unreal is great for that. So, to get started in Unreal, I scouted the derelict corridor scene from Quixel that's available on Fab, which I quickly customized to look like the gas station layout I needed. I worked in detail lighting mode, since I was just using this for blocking to this stage.
Aqui ele está montando uma
I dropped in some of
gasolineira.
the appropriate assets from that map: shelving, a propane tank, a cabinet, and also made proxy shapes for the assets that I didn't have: a long counter, more shelving, a cash register, and an ice chest. Then I backed up and framed my camera view and animated a boom down and a push in that I'd later use for my shot. But before I tackled the full video creation, I had to create a single style frame, the visual reference of my scene. To do that, I used the model to combine a depth pass plus the prompt novel I'd written.
Olha o prompt dele na tela.
The depth conditions the models to
E na
understand the
esquerda
layout and the framing. Here's how that
está
works using our new
o que
tools in Unreal.
está fazendo.
I asked Claude Code, connected by our MCP plugin, to use Unreal's movie render graph to create a 4K image, plus all the rest. Asking for an Unreal render to create the image was a signal to Claude Code that I wanted to give my model my depth pass, but use the creative look described in my prompt. I then fired off that request. And while it was being generated, I inspected the graph that it made for the task. Image models are hungry for helpful data and conditioning, and so I prepared a process
Depois
that
também uma
pulls
imagem
valuable
como
visual
exemplo.
data from the Unreal scene
No
and
próprio
passes
mapa
it to the
também,
image
Google
model.
Mapa também
In
deve
this
usar
case,
como
Google's
exemplo.
Nano Banana
Fez uma
Pro.
imagem real ali,
Now, let's
do
take a
Nana
look at this
Banana.
image more closely. You can see that it did a great job matching the visual detail I asked for, but most importantly, it didn't place things randomly. It matched the composition of my Unreal viewport exactly. From there, I could start to iterate. For example, I wanted another tire on the floor, but I didn't have that particular asset because it was an image model creation. Using the new image segmentation tools in the editor to mask the tire, I selected both the mask and the image, and with a predefined workflow, asked Claude Code to extract it, repair it, and mesh it using Trippo 3.1. And then I double-checked that graph, and I supervised the work. Now, of course, this is not a real-time process, so after several minutes, I got my textured tire mesh. I saved it to the content browser, where I then pulled in the tire and positioned it in 3D space. And finally, I asked Claude Code to add the tire to the image. Let's take a look at that result. So if we compare my UE passes with the tire in it, you can see that it put the new tire where I asked it to, and it made it look like a variation of the generated tire, not an exact duplicate. All right, now
Criou
let's add
variante,
something
não
totally new
duplicou,
to
tá
the
vendo?
scene
Ele
by
criou
going back
variante.
to the viewport for another round in 3D. I went browsing on Fab and found one of our junkyard car parts for Megascans. I picked the specific fender piece that I wanted that had a 1950s look modeled into it to leave less to the image model's imagination. I asked Claude Code to add it to my image and make it look like it had been newly repainted. And after
botou
another
ele
image
4K
processing
ainda por
step
cima,
in
hein?
Nano Banana, that was done. Okay, now that I produced my style frame, I
Tá
was ready to
vendo?
go back to our new
Eles estão
Unreal
usando
tools
a
to generate a video of our
inteligência
scene.
artificial
And here's my shot camera move again. If you recall,
para
this is the move that I created
ajudar
at the
a
beginning.
criar os
Over on the right,
locais,
the sequence render node that represents
criar
the depth of the entire range.
as
I'm gonna use the
mesas,
same
tudo.
depth restyling process with the video that I did on the still
O
image.
estúdio que diz que não está usando a
Style frame I
inteligência artificial
just
para
generated
isso
to the video model as a first frame reference,
está
and you can see that
mentindo,
I
tá
put my
vendo?
cat to
Unreal
for a bit of life.
é um exemplo,
And then I
tá
set my
testando
video
Nano
generation mode
Banana,
to use Seedance 2.1,
Grok,
set the resolution,
e por
add
aí
the
vai.
audio, and then I was off. Once that process had run for several minutes, I had a video that looked like this. So clearly, this is showing you that I can control the camera, but nobody controls a cat. All right, let's leave the garage and the cat and move on to an apartment. This is a different
Agora eu vou
workflow
mostrar
that we
agora
do
um
building in
apartamento,
parallel
hein?
for more rapid concepting with diffusion and your viewports side by side. What you're seeing here
Lado a
in
lado,
this
hein?
video is the UE
As
viewport
imagens.
on the left that was streaming to a local Flux Klein image model on the right. The local model result isn't temporally coherent. It was stamping a new image on every frame and only running a few frames a second, which is why it seems slower over there on the right. But let me show you how intuitive it is to use. I prompted for sunset lighting at first, and then decided to see what it would look like if there had just been a fire in this
Tá de
apartment.
presente.
And then I tried something more extreme, like being underwater at the bottom of a murky pond. The real benefit you get here is being able to go back to the UE viewport, interact with the assets, and see them repositioned through this new diffusion lens. Not only that, but you can try more illustrated looks like a charcoal drawing or even a watercolor painting. As models get more capable and hardware improves, it's not hard to project this work
Tá vendo?
forward
Duas
to a
imagens
time
diferentes,
when diffusion's real time and
uma
temporary
real e a outra criada pelo
Let's look at
programa
some
da
other
Unreal.
examples of Unreal Engine scenes restyled by artists in the engine using a variety of sources, some of which are premium environment packs from our friends at Kitbash 3D, and some of which are our own internal assets, including the city sample. Starting from quality
São
source
fotos das
assets, there's
cidades,
less room for
e tudo,
interpretation
dia e
bugs.
noite.
We think these new UE tools are a force multiplier that will give artists more opportunities for creative iteration on their work alongside the real-time animation, modeling, texturing, and virtual
Se
production tools that you've
a
come to
imagem
count on
real
in
e
real
ainda
life.
por cima
So this is
a
where we're
imagem
headed.
criada por
The
IA
MCP server that's
e
enabling artists is
também
experimental. What you're seeing here for
imagens
image and video creation will be
feito por
available
você
early next
mesmo
year.
fazendo um movimento,
We're on
captura
this
de
journey
movimento.
together, and we're aware that for these models to be truly useful, we need to focus on not just lowering technical complexity,
Ó,
but also giving you full
aviões,
creative control
carros,
over what you're making.
o que você
Complexity,
estiver fazendo.
but also giving you full creative control over what you're
Dá o
making.
controle total
Thank you.
do poder. Problema saindo e rodar no meu PC. É problema maior. E não vai rodar.
Thanks, Pat. That was awesome. All right, so now you've seen more, even great features, workflow improvements that are all going to help you make awesome games and content. So let's talk about distribution. 2025 was a year of growth for the Epic Game Store, and we're off to a great
Tem que
start.
fazer um meu PC rodar 200 GB de memória.
Our year in review
Ou
reported
mais.
that December monthly active users reached 78 million, an all-time record for the Epic Game Store. And players spent $1.16 billion in the store across third-party and first-party titles.
What the...
That's up 6% year over year.
Olha
If you
quanto
just
de
look at third-party
arrecada
titles, player spending
ano.
hit $400 million. That's up 57% year over year. And we now have over 6,000 games in the catalog from over 3,000 partners.
6.000
We offer
jogos?
multiple ways for you to help your business grow. In June of 2025, we announced that developers would keep 100% of the first $1 million of net revenue per product per year, with an industry-leading 88/12 rev share kicking in after that million. We've got Epic First Run, which gives developers the opportunity to keep 100% of net revenue for the first 6 months before launching on other stores. And we also have Launch Everywhere with Epic, which gives UE developers a reduced engine royalty rate of 3.5%, down from 5%, when they sim ship their title on the Epic Game Store. Finally, we continue to push on Epic Rewards, granting 5% back to players on all third-party content purchases that are processed by Epic. Now, last year we had a 20% rewards boost through the back half of the year, and we're seeing players continue to spend at heightened levels using the rewards
não
that they
entendi, ele
accumulated
falou
earned
que
during the promotional period.
a Epic
In fact,
ganha
spending through the
quanto
first
por
4
cento?
months of the year
Entre
on third-party games
5%?
is up over 40%
E os
year over
100%
year.
vai ser para o criador do
So beyond these
jogo?
great incentive programs, we're really working to connect the Epic Game Store more closely with the
Como
Fortnite ecosystem.
Fortnite.
And that'll give developers access to an even larger player base. Take our collab with Hoyoverse as an example. When players purchased eligible items in Honkai Star Rail on the Epic Game Store, they were granted a Stellaron Hunter Blade outfit that could be used across the entire Fortnite ecosystem, in Battle Royale or in thousands of UEFN games. So some players discovered Honkai Star Rail for the first time in Fortnite. Then they went on to spend on the game in the Epic Game Store, and their spend unlocked a new outfit that they brought back into Fortnite. It's a virtuous circle for both developers and players. We've got over 30 million, sorry, not 30 million, that would be a lot, 30 similar collabs planned for 2026, with more coming in 2027.
Ele falou.
So we're delivering great incentives for both developers and for players, but we need to make the store experience better. And over the last several
E não
months,
duvido chegar
teams
a
have
30
hard work
milhões isso aí não.
rebuilding the launcher. Our goal here is to dramatically improve
Dia,
performance with
não,
reduced
dia
cold
6.
start times and much faster browsing. We've also been re-architecting the back end of the store, which is going to allow us to ship new player-facing features faster and more frequently. We'll be improving search and discovery, adding a lot of long-awaited community features, and doubling down on delivering an overall better player experience. We are committed to growing the Epic Game Store, and we're not relenting in our mission to give developers access to a high-value global player base with the most favorable terms in the industry. You can learn more about our plans for the Epic Game Store in this session tomorrow. And now that we've covered a bit of what's happening in our ecosystem, let's hear from some of the teams putting it all to work.
E pode olhar mais detalhes sobre a Unreal 6, Unreal
20
5 dentro da
years
própria
after
Epic Game
emergence,
Store.
The
Tem
Coalition
link
is
direto
finally telling
para
the story they've
para
always
Unreal,
wanted to tell.
ok?
Darker, more alive.
E amanhã
running at
tem
60
jogo
frames
de
per
graça
second,
na Epic
hundreds of
Games.
shadow casting lights.
Qual vai ser, eu não
Then,
sei.
Riot Games is doing something most studios would never attempt, rebuilding a live PC and mobile game with 300 million players on a new engine, all while keeping the live service running. And finally, the small team at Neon Giant set out to build the densest, most lived-in city they could have ever imagined, a city where every frame tells a story and every choice you make becomes a part of that story. 3 games, 3 very different worlds, 1 engine. Up first, please welcome Kate Rayner from the Coalition.
Se fosse PC com porra da minha engine, a Unreal Engine
Hi,
vizinha,
everyone. I'm Kate Rayner. It's great to be able to join you today. Gears of War will celebrate its 20th anniversary this year, and Unreal Engine has been the foundation of every game since the series first debuted in 2006. For Gears of War E-Day, we made the decision to invest in Unreal Engine 5 and start with a blank hard drive and rebuild everything from scratch to achieve the believability of a world in chaos. Emergence Day
mas parece
is
que
the
mostraram
darkest day of
no
Emergence, the day the monstrous locust
antes
horde
de mostrar o Gears
emerged
of
from the
War,
ground to lay waste to
os outros
humanity, and
trailers e
revealed
fundo estavam
crucial
muito mais
insights.
bonitos que o Gears
That
of War,
all,
hein?
we needed to return to a dark and gritty visual style. Light
Acho
and
que Gears
shadow
of War
do more than just set a tone.
vai flopar, hein,
And with
galera?
Unreal Engine 5, we've pushed our signature Gears style to the next level. So, let's show you a taste of what we've built.
Vou mostrar o que fabricamos dentro da Unreal.
Welcome to the Pay and Save Superstore in downtown Kelowna. In previous games, a space like this was limited to 3 shadow casters in view. With Megalights, we now have hundreds of light sources, all casting shadows at 60 frames per second on Xbox Series X.
Aham, 60 FPS, duvido muito, minha
This
filha.
TV display wall utilizes animated area lights with light functions that are driven by the video itself fully on the GPU. They each cast eerie and unsettling dynamic shadows with soft penumbra across the scene. The Pay and Save is a great example of how we've created environments with geometry collection destructible assets like this tiled pillar. These dynamic objects cast and receive light correctly, so destruction stays visually grounded exactly the way you'd expect in the real world. Let's check out the freezer section. All these freezers have multiple area lights inside them to simulate that realistic lighting effect of the frozen food section of your local grocery store. During combat, bullets create a dynamic shatter point in the glass. When it shatters, all the pieces collide with the environment using hardware ray trace collision with physically accurate, translucent reflections. It's amazing to see how many light sources there are in here. There are hundreds of them, from the small lights on Marcus's armor to the large spotlights on the ceiling. There is no way we'd ever be able to achieve this effect or have this many ray-traced area lights on current generation hardware without megalights.
Se nunca poderiam
A
fazer se não fosse
staple
pela
of the
Unreal.
Gears franchise, E-holes are back in Gears of War E-Day. So let's open some up. Without all the monsters in the way, you can see all the volumetrics and smoke lit perfectly. One of the things we're super excited about that was unthinkable in the past is having shadows on every single one of our muzzle flashes. This is a really great improvement that adds to the dynamic combat of
senhor.
Gears with a more believable firing experience that puts you right in the middle of
O
the
jogo
action
parece bom,
like never
mas
before.
tá muito otimizado. Nesse sentido que Tudo que mostraram antes de mostrar o Gears tá mais bonito que o próprio Gears.
Our game isn't limited to just a single space. We can explore the entire city of Kelowna with tens of thousands of shadow casting lights. Delivering E-Day with this level of visual fidelity has not been easy. But we can iterate so much faster with hardware ray trace lumen compared to the baked lighting we used in the past.
Será que não foi nada fácil fazer esse tipo de
With Megalights,
nível
our
de
lighters
nível
are no longer constrained by the number of
de luz,
real-time shadow
de
casts,
cidade com luz e
giving
tudo.
them the freedom to light our game with the same complexity as the real world.
Ray tracing.
And we have 100 times the geometric detail in our assets due to Nanite's micropolygon rendering. All of these systems work together to create a highly scalable engine that allows us to consistently deliver a visual showcase across Xbox and PC. As developers, many of us know there is a difference between a compelling demo and delivering a fully realized vision at 60 frames per second. The Coalition is pushing Unreal Engine 5 and the hardware it runs on to their limits to reimagine the Gears world at an unprecedented level of detail. We can't wait for you to see for yourselves when E-Day launches on October 6th. Thank you.
Não roda, eu compro esse jogo nem ferrando no Xbox. Eu compro só no PlayStation só. A mulher parece um robô falando. A mulher me lembrou o Grok falando. Eu não põe um Grok dizendo que me disse aqui sobre a Microsoft. Ainda porque o som dela está numa altura que a transmissão.
Hi, I'm Gina, head of tech at Riot on Teamfight Tactics,
Hi,
or TFT
Gina.
as we like to call it. TFT is an auto battler that we originally built as a game mode on the same engine as League of Legends. We built it fast, about 18
Gina.
weeks from idea to launch, and then it grew
Mas eu
way
vou
beyond what we
algumas
expected.
pessoas desses
TFT has become
estúdios
a leading strategy
que
game with
fazem
more than
jogos
300 million
ou a
players
própria
across the ecosystem,
Unreal.
which is kind of wild to say out loud. We've just announced that TFT is moving
Sei
to
com quem
Unreal
sei que
Engine
trabalha
with our next
na
set,
Unreal,
Enchanted Wilds.
na Epic Games.
Rebuilding a live game on a new engine while it's still running is not something most games choose to do. It's years of work across engineering,
Gina, você
art,
qualquer
design, and
que trabalhe
production.
na Unreal.
And that gets even harder
Mas
when your game is still shipping new sets,
problema
events,
chegar
everything
neles,
to
né?
players on a
Problema
regular
chegar.
cadence. But that's what we decided to do. I joined Riot to work on TFT, and about 6 weeks in, we made the call to move the game to Unreal.
Ó, 6 semanas
And
ela
pretty
falou
quickly, we
que estava
realized
no que ela
this
fez
wasn't
para
just about
essa
moving engines.
build.
It was about what became possible. Building on shared technology, reusing more of what we create, spending less time rebuilding foundations, and more time building TFT. One example is the gameplay ability system. It gives us a more structured and flexible way to build gameplay as the game grows.
Ah,
And
tá,
for a
mas esse
game
tipo
like
de jogo é bem
TFT,
simples.
where every set brings new
Eu posso ir
mechanics,
isso peidando.
content, and ways to play, that kind of common foundation matters a lot. It gives us shared building
Porque esse
blocks,
tipo de jogo não
abilities,
chama atenção para mim.
attributes, and effects that can be reused across very different parts of the game. And that lets us move faster over time. With Unreal, we had to rethink how the game
Por
was
isso eu
built.
posso peidando, porque esse tipo de
Architecture,
jogo não me
networking,
chama atenção.
gameplay, even the way the game data is structured had to change. And early versions of the game in Unreal just didn't feel right. Performance was rough. We had builds running at around 12 frames per second in an 8-player game, which I'm sure all of you can imagine was not exactly the target. So the first goal for us wasn't innovation. It was parity. We had to get TFT back, and that meant reworking a lot of systems inside Unreal. Some gave us a strong starting point, others required significant customization, and some we rebuilt from scratch. For example, networking. As we built more of the game and added more content, we started to hit limits. With a huge number of gameplay actors in a match, the default replication approach wasn't enough to meet our server and bandwidth performance targets. So, with Epic's help, we evolved our approach, adopting Iris networking with push-based replication and fast arrays to get the performance we needed. The hard part wasn't getting something working, it was making it work at scale. Gameplay was another big one. We leaned heavily into the gameplay ability system. It's powerful and helped us get something up and running quickly, which, as many of you know, matters a lot early on. But TFT has sets, modes, and
Para o meu
gameplay
estúdio
content
que usei
that
para
don't
fazer
always
esse
fit
jogo
with the
aí,
same timeline.
tem um
Pretty
PC
quickly,
com
we
mais ou
realized we
menos
needed
a
a better way to
metade,
organize
um
all
pouquinho
of
maior
it.
que, um pouco
So we
melhor que o
ended
meu,
up
só que
using the Game Features
inferior.
plugin to give that content clearer boundaries and a more scalable way to share systems. And that gave the teams more freedom to
Que não
build.
roda para fazer um
And then
estilo
there's
como
mobile.
aquele do
A huge part of
do cara que
TFT is that
mostrou
it
lá,
runs on a wide range
realista.
of devices, including low-end mobile hardware. That didn't change just because we moved engines. And while this has been one of the hardest parts of the migration, it's also
Não,
one of the
eu
reasons
sei,
we
galera,
made the move.
é que eu tô
Mobile is a
esperando mais
huge part of how
informações.
people play TFT, including me. So we invested
Só
deeply
você,
in
minha filha, eu
custom
não.
rendering, memory
Eu
management,
jogo nem
and scaling the
ferrando.
game across devices, working closely with Epic to get
Jogo paia.
TFT running where we needed it to. But we're still early in that journey. We're already sharing much more across PC and mobile than we could before, and there's still a lot more we can do for our mobile players. Content migration. I'm guessing a lot of you already know where this is going. TFT has thousands of assets across art, animation, VFX, and audio that had to be migrated. And every type of content broke differently when we brought it over. VFX alone was a massive amount of work. We weren't just converting assets, we were moving between fundamentally different systems. Getting thousands of assets into the engine was one challenge. Getting them back to the quality bar that players expect was another. And we really underestimated how much time this would take. So a huge part of the effort became building the tooling and pipelines to fix, convert, and validate all that content at scale. And that's where Unreal's extensibility really mattered. We could build the systems we needed to make this possible, because there was no world where we were rebuilding all of that by hand. And we kept running into the same pattern everywhere. Unreal gives you a lot, but getting from Unreal to TFT still took a massive amount of work. We're already seeing the impact of Unreal across TFT. More of the game is built on shared foundations. Mobile and PC share much more of the same UI and underlying systems, and we're able to build on technology and capabilities that exist across Riot. And that's the biggest thing Unreal gave
na
us.
Godot, não
Not
na
a
Unreal.
feature,
Godot, mas
leverage.
pra cá.
But this move isn't for everyone. For TFT, this is what will let us move faster,
Eu
take
tinha
bigger
recebido na
swings,
Godot,
and
não na
keep
Unreal.
delivering the experiences players expect. Because for us, this is about building TFT
Na Unreal passa
into a
jogo
forever
realista,
game
ou
that players
estilo
can
anime,
keep
mas
coming back to. And players will
como
get their
Dragon Ball no
first
estilo atual.
opportunity to play TFT on Unreal in just a few weeks. And honestly, I hope
Vai jogar o
players
jogo
pick
na
it up and
Unreal?
say, yeah, this feels like TFT. Because if we've done our job well, they won't be thinking about the engine at all. They'll just be playing TFT.
Você pode jogar
Thank
o
you
jogo
so
dentro
much.
da
I hope you all
própria
have a great
Unreal.
Unreal
Você não
Fest.
entendi, meu filho. Aqui tá um precipício aqui comigo, nem precipício, amigo.
I'm Tor Frick, Creative Director at Neon Giant, here to talk about No Law, the next game from our studio. In our first game, The Ascent, our small team pushed the out-of-the-box UE4 tech to its limit to make a highly detailed, lived-in cyberpunk world. For our new game, No Law, a high-fidelity, immersive, first-person shooter set in the unregulated city.
Primeira pessoa,
of
coisa de
we
perda de
knew
tempo.
that our best starting point would be building a game around the core feature set of Unreal 5, because a small team like ours needs
Eu
to
tô
work
em
with the
terceira pessoa
engine,
sempre.
not against it.
Primeira pessoa só pra
We realized early on
FPS,
that out
coisa
of the
assim.
box wouldn't be enough.
Shooters,
We had to push beyond the default and build our own workflow inside UE5 to
jogos
make it
com
work.
história, coisa assim,
We're
sem
proud of
terceira
what we did with
pessoa.
the Ascent, and No Law is the next step in that same approach. Our constraint was specific. We didn't want the largest world, but the densest, a city that feels lived in at every scale, where every corner carries history and every surface tells a story. Port Desire is shaped by human clutter, cramped market alleys,
Sou contra
layered graffiti,
jogo em primeira
or
pessoa,
stickers on electrical
jogo que tem a ver
boxes.
com
Spaces
história.
that feel touched and retouched by the
Sou
people that
contra.
live there. Our goal was to tell a story with every frame, from a messy apartment where characters go about their lives to the skyline of the city. As a relatively small team, that ambition came with real challenges. We wanted extreme detail everywhere, but we also needed stability and performance without hand optimizing each location. For us, the answer wasn't a single system, but a shift in how we built the world. We prioritized density over scale, and we built a pipeline that let artists handcraft spaces without constantly stripping detail back and
não é
without relying on
como
procedural generation. Nanite is what made that approach viable. It lets us keep a high level of detail across surfaces without treating every asset as a trade-off between fidelity and performance. Our custom implementation of FastGeo in combination with the world partition system enables a seamless experience that never breaks. It allows us to have details in
Não tá tão
every little
bonita
cranny
o
and tell a
apartamento, tá
million
mais ou
small
menos.
stories. In fact, we have more objects in any given frame than the entirety of the Ascent. With this workflow, we can preserve detail and density in every corner, from the smallest bolt on a freighter to the city as a whole, with no invisible walls
Olha o
and no
prédio
loading.
dentro.
We build tools inside Unreal to help our artists handcraft the entire city, alley by alley, building by building, block by block.
Prédio
To
por
show Port
prédio, bloco
Desire's
por
full
bloco por
range
bloco.
as an urban city overrun with vegetation, we needed dynamic lighting. From the cozy, lush midday sun to the darkest, the most dangerous alleys where even the bright neon light does not reach. The challenge was maintaining a fully dynamic day, night, and weather system without unpredictable frame times. Lumen gives the foundation for fully dynamic lighting, and mega lights that our artists focus on the believability of
Lumen.
the space instead of
Eu
tuning
ia falar
every single light
dessa
source.
engine.
Every believable space needs dozens or hundreds of individual light sources. From the smallest blinking electronic warning light on a camera to the large neon signs above a marketplace.
Ó,
Megalights allow us to retain the visual fidelity bar we're
com a
aiming
câmera
for,
dá pra
while
você poder
keeping performance
fazer
considerations
provavelmente
low.
uma captura de
Once
imagem
everything is dynamic,
do local e mandar
start
para
to
Unreal.
affect the gameplay in more direct ways. Players can shoot out a street lamp, flood a space with a flashlight, or they can leave an area in darkness and have the AI NPCs react to light and shadow, shying away from glare, searching through darkness, or escalating when something feels off.
Let's see who's got the bigger gun, motherfucker!
To make the city feel alive, we leaned on the mass framework to drive our crowds. NPC density and types shift based on time of day, region, and weather. In the slums, a storm
Agora-
clears the streets.
agora até
and
o
in the more
clima-
sinful
o
parts of
tema
Port Desire,
climático também
even
vai
heavy
falar agora
rain won't
também
slow
aqui.
things down. Mass lets us simulate thousands of characters at once, over 3,000 at any given time, which is
Até
also
3.000
more than the
personagens
time
em simulação.
The city always feels active, no matter where you are. We're also using MetaHuman, paired with our own character randomization system. Together with MetaHuman Animator, generate
MetaHuman.
and bring to life thousands and thousands of variations of characters, so that the main characters and the extras in the background are all unique. We wanted a world that reacted systemically to the player, without us having to hand place effects and destruction. Filling a world of this density and scale with contextual effects while maintaining performance and interactivity was one of our key challenges.
Ó,
By
ó o
combining
clima aí, ó.
PCG and Niagara data channels, environmental effects are procedurally populated where appropriate. Wherever artists place trash or leaves, particles will spawn dynamically based on wind, weather, and player actions. Shoot a bullet, or throw a grenade, and particles will move out of the way. We combined chaos physics and their own GPU-driven solution to support tens of thousands of moving objects simultaneously. The result is a reactive environment where smoke lingers, embers drift, and broken glass stays where it fell. Creating NOLA has been the process of finding where the engine ends and our custom tools begin. Achieving this level of density, light and
Uns
complexity
meses atrás
and
mostraram
systemic
Fórmula 1
reactivity was
26,
previously impossible for a studio of our
a
size.
demo
By
sendo
leveraging
feita aí.
UEFI's latest tech to bypass traditional development bottlenecks, we
A
have
Fórmula
finally been
25, alguma
able
coisa assim.
to build the uncompromised version
Como seria
of the world we wanted to create
feita
for
na
years.
Unreal.
We can't wait for you to experience it. Thank you.
Alguma coisa assim que para dias atrás. Vamos ver. Próximo.
Hello, everyone. I lead the Fortnite developer relations team here at Epic, and I'm here to talk with you about what's happening in the Fortnite ecosystem. Every one of the games on the screen behind me was built by an independent developer. Small
Ela
teams,
é encarregada
sometimes
do
just 2 or 3
Fortnite, essa mulher.
people using UEFN, published into an ecosystem of millions of players. For those of you who have been with us in UEFN, some since day one, thank you. Your feedback has really helped shape the tools, and your creativity has shifted how more than 75 million monthly active users experience Fortnite. Your games are a growing share of Fortnite playtime. In May, we saw them capture 47% of all player hours, up from just 38% a year ago. And with over $1 billion now paid out to developers since the launch of UEFN, these teams are building businesses here through engagement payouts and, as of January, in-island transactions. It's introduced more ways to monetize. It's opened up new genres and helped developers with smaller, engaged communities thrive. Over 3,000 islands now earn more from in-island transactions than engagement payouts. And we're continuing to see a growing share of total payouts coming from in-island transactions. It's been a boost for genres outside of Battle Royale and Shooter, and these games now make up over 75% of all in-island transaction revenue. We know it takes trust to build on a platform that's still maturing, and this year, stability and developer effectiveness is our #1 priority. Back in March, we stated our goal to cut iteration times, and we've been making real progress, getting the time it takes to push changes down by an average of 40% or so. That's even higher for larger projects, and we've seen reductions of up to 70%. Plus, expanded live edit support makes iteration faster and more streamlined. Live edits are now applied directly in game mode, and the new edit list gives you a clear view of the changes as you work. The consolidated UI simplifies session controls and adds the ability to pause the game, letting you explore the edit the scene with a detached camera. And then work's not done here. We're continuing to drive iteration times down and make UEFN a better tool to build with, release after release. And alongside hardening the tools, we're unlocking more gameplay capabilities. Scene Graph, which is soon to be the foundation of UE6, is maturing quickly in UEFN and giving Fortnite developers far more control and customization than ever before. It underpins new systems like custom items, inventories, and as of our latest release, an initial set of workflows creating custom weapons and animation with Scene Graph. And there's much more on the way, including gameplay attributes, gameplay abilities, and Scene Graph UI. We're introducing more and more major engine systems as first scriptable components so that you can spend more time in UEFN authoring gameplay and less time configuring it. We're also opening up new types of gameplay with targeted feature sets. Creature-based gameplay tools just shipped with games launching to players this summer. And Fortnite Sidekicks allows developers to tap into the attachment players have already built with their own companions. developers can now build pet battlers, cozy farming sims, and more. And we're expanding where those games come to life. Fortnite is back on Google Play and the App Store worldwide, and mobile playtime for UEFN games has more than doubled in the past year. We know that optimizing for
Em
mobile
poucas palavras,
has
estão
been easy.
transformando
We're
Fortnite em
hoping
uma nova
that some of the
Unreal.
recent feature releases like native gesture support and touchscreen layout customizations and finer control over your HUD can help you build more mobile-friendly games. These mobile features will exit experimental mode in August, enabling experiences and genres that feel more at home on mobile. Our recent Discover changes are already showing results. We've cracked down on spam and duplicate content, sorted islands into clear genres, and personalized Discover to help your games find audiences faster. And later this year, we're going to be doing a full redesign. Video everywhere, personalization across every row, and social signals, including like percentage right on the tile. And a big shift, Discover replaces the lobby as the first thing that players see when they open Fortnite. We'll be diving deeper into the Discover roadmap and the rest of UEFN ecosystem over the next few days. Our IP partner program enables any Fortnite developer to build with officially licensed content from major IP like LEGO, Star Wars, Squid Game, and more. Each partnership unlocks exclusive characters, environments, and templates that developers can use to create games they can't build anywhere else. One of the OG
É o que eu falei, tá vendo?
developers, Future Trash, has successfully brought their FOD IP to Fortnite and launched
Fortnite vai
a
virar
hit
uma
game
nova engine.
set in a galaxy far, far away. Their founder, Kevin, is here to share more about what they've been up to, so please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Hannah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Marciano, co-founder and CEO of Future Trash, the game studio behind FOD. In 2022, my co-founders, Nate, Scott, Eric, and I, quit our jobs, and we wanted to build the next great party game. We were betting everything on an indie studio with one idea and a lot of passion. We learned fast how brutal that road is. Back-end infrastructure, discoverability, distribution, the walls were everywhere. By early 2023, we only had a few weeks of runway left. I flew to GDC with the Steam Deck in hand, trying to get anyone's attention to care about what we had built. That's when UEFN got announced, and we thought, why don't we bring our game into Fortnite? We weren't native to UGC, so it felt incredibly risky. After some experimentation with the tools and learning more about the blossoming creator economy, we could see the potential. We rolled up our sleeves and shipped our first game in under 3 weeks. We hit publish and got player feedback almost instantly.
Que?
And that's when it
Fez
settled
quanto
in.
tempo?
This
Em
was
3
gonna be our path
semanas?
forward. And that bold pivot didn't just save our company, it changed our perspective on the future of the games industry. What UEFN gave us wasn't just a platform, it was direct access to our audience. No gatekeepers, no publisher approval. You just have an idea, you build it, and players play it. We've now reached a scale of players we genuinely never thought would be possible as a small studio. From a MOBA that didn't quite land with the Fortnite audience to our first breakout hit, Boom Tycoon, we had the opportunity to experiment with a wide range of genres and discover what felt right for our creative sensibilities on the platform. And as a studio obsessed with world building, character-driven experiences, and building original IP, UEFN became our creative sandbox and our distribution layer at the same time. Star Wars has always been a creative inspiration to everyone on our team since childhood. None of us ever dreamt that we'd be able to craft our own game using the iconic IP with essentially total creative control. The droids of Star Wars, they do the hardest work, they survive the worst odds, and they get the least amount of credit. And we thought, let's make a game about them. Droid Tycoon was our love letter to these unsung heroes of the Star Wars universe. It's hard to believe that this game could have existed anywhere else. And that's how we see the future of how legacy IP will embrace UGC native creators to foster an infinite extension of their content universe. That's where the most exciting stories are going to be told. And you all showed up to prove it. Since we launched the map, Droid Tycoon became the most played UEFN game in Fortnite by hours. It climbed to the second most played game across all Fortnite in its first weekend. And earlier this month, it set a new record for the highest number of concurrent players over a 2-hour period, which is the strongest performance ever achieved by an IP experience in Fortnite. Looking ahead, our ambitions are to continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible on the platform in terms of visual quality and storytelling. We will continue building our own original IP while also making immersive experiences for the franchises that inspire us most. Thank you.
Ele criou o jogo dentro do Fortnite, esse cara. Vamos ver o próximo aqui.
Thanks, Kevin, for sharing your story and creative process, and especially for bringing the Star Wars IP to life in Droid Tycoon in a way that has connected so deeply with fans. Droid Tycoon is a standout representative of some of the big highlights we had this year in Disney and Fortnite. Let's take a look.
Disney e Fortnite. Vamos ver. Nada que ver uma coisa com a outra.
And beyond! Behold, giant food from the sky!
Ok.
This partnership is anchored in one conviction. Disney stories should reach fans where they already are, and that's increasingly in games. And it extends beyond Epic and Disney. Developers, you're in this too, with the agency to build your own experiences and tell your own stories using the IP that you know and love. Early in my game dev career, my dream was to make games in the Star Wars universe. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, and it's been a great full circle moment for me personally to see developers experience the thrill of making their own Star Wars games for the first time. What's happened since we launched this IP program has exceeded everything we expected. Star Wars came to UEFN and developers ran with it. Galactic Siege, Escape Vader, Droid Tycoon, all built with tools available to everyone in this room. 8 million players in 72 hours overall. Galactic Siege had 6.5 million players, and Escape Vader had 3.4 million plays in just the first 6 days. And Droid Tycoon became the #2 most played island in Fortnite within a week. All of us at Disney want to congratulate and thank Beyond Creative and Jogo for their contributions on their exemplar island launches, along with Droid Tycoon. In The Mandalorian and Grogu Watch Party Island, fans were able to watch the first 10 minutes of the film before it ever hit theaters. This is a new model for what studio IP and the creative pipeline can look like, going beyond IP access and toward creative continuity and immersion in worlds that feel real. Star Wars, though, was just one chapter in a year where games meaningfully extended our storytelling. As Percy Jackson returned to Disney Plus for Season 2, Siege of Monsters, created by our friends at Gauntlet, offered a new way to experience that world, while our own Disneyland Game Rush translated the energy from Anaheim and Disneyland's 70th anniversary into playable form. And our Disney, Pixar, Lucasfilm, 20th Century, and Marvel outfit collabs continue to remain amongst the most popular in Fortnite. That goes beyond a traditional IP arrangement. It's iconic Disney stories in the hands of more creatives, reaching more fans than ever. And we can't forget our favorite animated family from Springfield, who had one crazy month-long season last year. This season had over 80 million unique players with over 750 million hours played. The reach speaks for itself. We were so excited to see players come into Springfield, but we've also loved watching citizens of Springfield cross over into parts of UEFN. Let's take a look at some highlights from one of our favorite streamers.
Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Bart-ass reacts to an idiot playing Fortnite. Here's how Homer gets us to school every day. The fat is strong with this one. Hey, look, it's Jurassic Pork. Here's Dad having a meeting with my teacher, Mrs. Krabappel. Here we go, the titanic battle between two old men with breathing problems.
Ai, meu Deus.
Okay, dinosaurs and stormtroopers are tough for Dad, but when he's on his home turf in his Springfield island, he'll probably just choke on his own donut cannon.
"36 years in, The Simpsons still feel like everyone's family. But today, they're finding a new home. We are so excited to announce The Simpsons is joining the IP Partner Program later this year.
Que? O Simpsons tá entrando.
Springfield will be yours. Characters, locations, radioactive waste, all UEFN ready. But hey, be kind to Flanders. But based on what we've seen, Springfield's in good hands. Thank you to all the amazing developers in this community.
No catálogo da
We look forward to
Disney.
seeing what you create next. Now back to Epic.
From the first time we went supersonic to right here, right now, it's fitting that at the largest celebration of our game, in front of the greatest fans in the world, we celebrate that history. To all of our friends here in Paris and those watching all around the world, this is the future, and this is...
Esse é o nome do jogo, caramba. Rocket League.
Hey, everyone. All right, at the Rocket League competitive series in Paris, we gave the world the first glimpse of Unreal Engine 6. And this is the next step in our mission, to make great games and tools and to share them with you so you can bring your ideas to life. And I'm here to talk to you about what we're building now for the future. Today, things are kind of awkward. There's actually two different ways to build stuff in Unreal. There's building Unreal Engine 5 games for standalone distribution on stores with massive AAA features. And then there's the Unreal Editor for Fortnite feature set and tool set that enables you to build a game once and then deploy it to all platforms live into Fortnite with its 80 million monthly active users. Now, each of them has some really cool, unique features, but is lacking the features of the other one. And so our big initiative to bring them together is the core of the Unreal Engine 6 effort. It's UE5 plus UEFN equals UE6 plus some more cool stuff on the way. The vision is that if you build things once the Unreal Engine 6 way, then you can have a game that you can ship everywhere, including the console stores, the PC stores, the mobile stores, and also
Ó,
ship live into
olha o que ele
Fortnite
acabou de falar
ecosystem or
aqui.
any other Unreal Engine 6-based game ecosystem
A
built
Unreal
by
Engine
any
6
other
vai estar
developer.
vinculado com as
Now, in
lojas
prior
para poder
generations, we
você
put graphics first
fazer
in leading and
a
announcing
venda do seu
our
próprio
technology.
jogo
But with the Unreal
criado
Engine 6
por você
generation, we're
dentro da
focusing first and
Unreal
foremost on the
nas
foundations of
lojas
the engine to
automaticamente
prepare for the next generation of game
na
development
próxima
and for gaming.
geração.
And the most critical change here is the move to the verse programming language for gameplay development alongside the low-level C++ engine. And the reason for this is to enable massive scale code and content interoperability across games. Today we have a lot of content interoperability features. You go to the Fab content marketplace, you download a bunch of cool objects, you stick in your game, but then you have to wire them up and make it work yourself. In the Unreal Engine 6 generation, by having a unified set of APIs and a unified language that works everywhere, you'll be able to build smart assets that are completely portable between games and between projects and can be shared at any scale, with the potential to have millions of developers collaborating together on a shared body of work that anybody can use. Another hallmark aim for the Unreal Engine 6 generation is to enable far larger game simulations. The original Battle Royale movie in 1999 that inspired the Battle Royale genre of games, fortunately, just happened to have 100 people dropping onto an island. It's a nice coincidence because that's actually the maximum number of players our code base could support running on a single thread on a server. If they had 1,000 players, we wouldn't have been able to do it. But the goal of Unreal Engine 6 is to introduce software and transactional memory technology, which Curtis Schmidt will talk more about later,
Ele falou em poucas palavras que o mundo que você pode criar é muito maior para jogos de simulação e também Battle Royale.
Thousands, potentially even millions in the future. And this is technology that's in the research lab, and the team is working very rapidly to make into a practical shipping system. Another major aim of Unreal Engine 6 is something I first talked about at the SIGGRAPH Computer Graphics Show back in 2016. There I talked about a potential future of gaming as an open system like the web is open, in which any developer can run a server, build a game, host their own content, and the user can go anywhere they want, from place to place, bringing all of their stuff with them, and tearing down the walls and barriers that exist between games to have a completely interoperable ecosystem. And the Rocket League preview of Unreal Engine 6, if you looked at the very last frame of it, there was a little URL bar on top. The URL was verse://rocketleague.com. And we're tantalizingly close now to fully realizing this idea of an open gaming ecosystem with the ability to travel from game to game and independent developer freedom to build everything they want everywhere they go. And our aim at Epic is to work with all developers in the industry to build this system together as peers. We want a system with no overlord. We've been spending some time fighting against overlords in the industry with some amount of success. And we don't want to be the next one. Rather, we want to be a partner to every company in the industry,
O Dream da Sony,
all game developers, and
do
also other
PlayStation,
makers of technology
é igual que o
and
Fortnite no
services
modo de
in order
criação,
to
só que você
build
não
the best
pode
stuff
vender
and connect
para
it all
vender.
up together.
Segundo eles aqui,
And so a huge part of
o
this
do Fortnite é para
effort
você
is going to
vender
be
o
Epic
jogo.
adopting open standards like the Pixar USD file format, and GLTF, and also working with standards bodies and releasing specifications to bring new standards into the industry where they're lacking.
Segundo eles, né? Vou descobrir depois aqui com
And
o
I'll be
Brock.
talking more about that later, but right now I'd like to introduce Marcus Wasmer to talk about the architecture of Unreal Engine 6. Thanks.
Vamos falar mais um pouco mais sobre
Thanks, Tim.
Unreal Engine 6.
So let's just take a second look at the recent history of Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine 4 opened the engine to everyone by making the tools free to use and the source accessible on GitHub. And UE5 reinvented how worlds are built, helping you go bigger, add density and dynamic detail, and do it faster than ever before. UE6 has a different proposition. It's about evolving how we ship and operate our games. That said, UE6 will keep doing the things you want an Unreal Engine to do. Rendering will keep getting better, cook times will come down, iteration loops are getting tighter, mobile is increasingly capable. However, we believe for UE6 that there are 3 things about game development that need to change at the same time.
Ó, 3 coisas vão mudar
First,
aqui, ó.
gameplay programming needs to get simpler for creating persistent, live, large-scale worlds. And Verse is the foundation for Epic's future programming model. It's a next-generation language purpose-built to power massive, persistent game worlds at scale, where global state just works and transactionally correct concurrency is handled by the runtime. We've built a modern high-level gameplay framework on top of Verse that gives you a true foundation to build games and experiences easily and to share their interoperable components between games. You'll hear more about our goals and architecture for this programming model from our technical director on the project in a few minutes. But for now, let's talk about the second guiding principle of UE6. Content and code should be portable across games and even engines. Our goal is to give the games industry a whole new way to grow our ecosystems with cross-promotion, portable player value, and to really lean into all the positive sum dynamics that Metcalfe's law predicts for connecting experiences and social graphs together. And we're going to do this with a determined effort to move UE beyond just extensibility and into open specifications for interoperability.
Ó, acessibilidade, eu
Where existing
gostei.
standards such as GLTF or USD are capable of fulfilling our needs, we'll make them first-class formats within the engine. And where a standard doesn't yet exist that serves the needs of game ecosystems, we'll open up Unreal's own systems as open specifications with Verse APIs, defined asset conditions, and documentation that any engine, tool, or studio can implement against. And Fortnite Cosmetics will be our first real proof point of portability. We're going to start by moving the base system to an open UE6 module that's usable by all games. And this means that you'll have the option to use a player's entitled Fortnite outfits in your own games, and you'll get the tools to build outfits for your own games that work inside Fortnite. And we're tackling this problem first because we want to prove things out with a
Tá vendo?
system that's
Fortnite virou uma
complex enough
engine,
to be a
Fortnite.
meaningful existence proof of the idea, and one that inherently comes with a ton of player value by respecting their purchases across an interconnected ecosystem of games. We see this as the first step towards building a shared economy for smart assets.
É a terceira vez que eu falo sobre isso
Functional
na
assets with
live.
logic and functionality that work across games to recognize players' time and spending in a better way. In the end, this isn't really a Fortnite story. It's just about proving that such a mature, complex system can work at scale, and that every game that works with these systems will immediately benefit from them. Happily, we're taking the first concrete steps to such an open e-system right now. MetaHuman has been adopted by some of the most successful games in the world and is rapidly becoming a standard for digital characters. And that's why today we're announcing the MetaHuman Dev Kit, opening up our Rig Logic and MetaHuman DNA toolsets under the MIT license so that you can deliver MetaHumans in any game, any engine, any platform. To learn more,
Pera. N plataforma, até a PlayStation também é. Ah, meu filho.
So to learn more,
Peguei.
please come to our talk right after this. All right, moving on, no tech presentation would obviously be complete without a conversation about AI. So to get one of the fun talking points out of the way, there's some speculation going around that game engines will be superseded by promptable world models. And we don't actually think that's what happened next. What does, we think, is much more interesting. That AI-assisted game creation will tighten iteration loops, reduce time-consuming manual setup of levels, character rigs, particle systems, getting bone weights, adjusting lighting, all of the manual work required to translate professional, creative intent into performant and cross-platform games. And crucially, Unreal Engine is uniquely placed to be the efficient, cross-platform, high-fidelity runtime that will remain the substrate on which much of the world's best games run. Thus, for UE6, we see LLMs, Gen AI models, and tools like Claude, Gemini, and so on as playing a central role in building content faster with the creative control that you need. And as you saw earlier, the future of these workflows is a fluent translation layer between natural language intent and your production pipeline. Our goal for UE6 is to greatly reduce the tedious work in authoring content to leave more time for creative exploration and increase the amount of iterations a team can make to polish their content. UE6 will ship with these workflows battle-tested against internal development and in UEFN. And while we've mostly been showing and talking about content creation, coding and engineering are important as well. Internally at Epic, we've been doing a lot of investigation to see what works and what doesn't. And we recently opened up pretty broad usage for code generation and AI analysis across our back-end, engine, and game development engineering teams. We've had a lot of great success stories. We've had particular success with people writing custom tools for their own work, fast code indexing tools for helping LLMs deal with large code bases like UE, fast incident response analysis, automated root cause analysis for crashes, automated test generation, and of course the wins you'd expect on back-end service development. But what's interesting is that most of those cases aren't even generating mainline Unreal Engine code yet, though that'll come. So you can expect Unreal Engine 6 to include all the key learnings for using AI for engineering along with content workflows. Okay, so we know you obviously have lots of questions about the transition from UE5 to UE6, so let's talk about that for a second. UE6 converges two threads of development we've been running in parallel. UE5 for high-end standalone game and content development, and Unreal Editor for Fortnite as the live environment where our new programming model is getting battle tested. UE6 will combine these two products into one. As UE5 and UEFN merge into one editor, you will be able to ship traditional games and projects exactly as you do today. You'll be able to ship directly in Fortnite, or ship your own ecosystem and optionally make it compatible with ours. You'll have an easy path from one to the other. Actors and blueprints will be in early versions of UE6. Eventually, these will be deprecated when the new framework is sufficiently mature, and you'll have conversion tools to move projects from one framework to the other. Also, a new UE6 mainstream will be on GitHub later today, publicly visible, just like the UE5 stream has always been. Any remaining UE5 changes will merge to UE6 to not get lost, but not vice versa. And in addition, Fortnite development will be attached to the UE6 stream, so you can see all of our ongoing work live and cherry pick any changes as needed. However, this stream is not meant to be any kind of alpha. It exists just to be transparent with where we're going. And while we're not currently planning another official UE5 release after 5.8, we do reserve the right to ship a 5.9 if needed. You never know. So when can you get your hands on UE6? We plan to release in early access at the end of 2027-ish. We know how game dev works around here. However, Epic will be shipping things on the tech stack.
Nessa Unreal Engine 6 2027.
6.0 will be released 12 to 18 months following the early access release, and we expect just about everyone should be able to move their projects to 6.0, as it will still have all of the mainline UE5 tech, except for Cascade, where we're killing that one. That one's not going to make it. So get on the Niagara train. That said, we will be taking the opportunity to make some big architectural and other breaking changes that we wouldn't normally do in a point release, so you can expect a similar upgrade path from UE5 to 6 as we had for 4 to 5. We'll keep everyone up to date on our progress as development continues, and now Curtis is going to come up and give us a more detailed breakdown of the gameplay architecture. Thank you.
Unfortunatamente não me convence fazer o jogo, não me convence. Vamos ver aqui, próximo segmento.
Thanks, Marcus, and good morning, everyone. I'm Curtis. I work on the gameplay architecture in Unreal Engine, and today I'm excited to talk to you about the new gameplay framework for UE6, which begins with Verse. Now, Verse is a next-generation programming language, purpose-built to power massive, persistent game worlds at scale. We originally released it 3 years ago in UEFN, where we could grow it to become the foundation for UE6. And Verse draws ideas from functional, logic, and imperative languages, and it should feel immediately familiar to anyone who's worked in languages like C# or Python before. But it also has some unique features aimed at solving the complexity and scaling problems of modern game development, starting with this unique software transactional memory model, or STM. Now, all functions in Verse run as part of atomic transactions, which can be rolled back and resimulated as needed. And this lets us do a lot of interesting things in our game's code. So for example, to check if an object can be successfully moved in the world, we can simply set its position, then do our spatial queries to see if it's hitting anything. If it is, we abandon the entire transaction, reverting the entire operation, and pretending the code never ran at all. Now, Verse's transactional memory model can also help us address another big problem in game development, building enormous worlds with larger player counts. And today, one of the big limiters to really building larger games comes down to server technology. Scaling a game to run on multiple game servers requires a fundamental rethinking of your entire game's architecture. Well, with UE6, we're working to build a full distributed software transactional memory system to address this. So here's the idea. We take your existing single-threaded style verse game code, and then we distribute it across multiple servers. When an object's needed in one server, the verse runtime rolls back the current transaction, migrates the object over to the server, and then reruns the transaction with the object now present. And this is all done in a way that retains the transactional consistency of the original program. And finally, with Verse, we wanted to make saving game data way simpler. So the Verse runtime can automatically synchronize and save any global state for the program, and then share it across all running instances of your game or an ecosystem. And to the programmer, what this means is that setting up something like save state for a player is as simple as setting a single global map of player to save state. No more having to set up databases or coordinate schemas between your game and other backend services. You can do all of this without ever leaving Verse. Now let's take a look at how Verse fits into the bigger UE6 gameplay architecture. So at the foundational level, we have the Verse runtime, along with all the UE systems that exist today, like rendering, chaos physics, meta sounds. With Verse, we're also introducing the Verse Scene Graph framework. Now, this is a modern game component framework with full support for prefab-style workflows and runtime composition. The Scene Graph has been designed to utilize all the power of the Verse language, including modeling the entire prefab data model through Verse's type system. Above this, every core system in the engine is exposed as concrete Verse objects. Each material, mesh, Niagara system that you author becomes a type of Verse class with a statically validatable API. This lets us use the Verse compiler to validate all of our data in a unified manner across the entire engine. For example, if you change a parameter in a particle system, you'll immediately know where in code needs to be updated to match. And finally, we'll be introducing high-level frameworks for common game systems like characters, weapons, and vehicles. Now, building with these frameworks helps speed up development, but it also creates content that can be shared widely across games and ecosystems. So imagine grabbing a car from Fab, and instead of simply getting a skeletal mesh and some animations like you might today, you get a fully working Verse module for a car that functions across all of your games. With the UE6 gameplay framework, we're envisioning a world where enormous amounts of code and content is being built and shared between these projects, with Verse providing strong backwards compatibility guarantees to help the ecosystem grow sustainably. Of course, we'll need a place to store all this code and data, and here to talk about that is Matthias.
Vamos ver o que o Matheus vai dizer aqui. Matias, vamos ver.
Thank you, Curtis. I'm Matthias Jansson. I work on developer tools. And I'm here to talk about our version control system, Lore. As we continue to scale our platforms and services, we run into many challenges when it comes to data storage and version control. We need something that can handle large binary data sets, scale easily across the globe, and provide secure data isolation in a shared multi-tenant environment. We also need to make it easy to use for everyone, not just programmers. We looked at the available tools and came to the conclusion that none had everything we needed. Git, for example, it's excellent at what it was built for, distributed development of source code. But game development has huge amounts of binary data and content, and rarely needs everything on your local machine. Git doesn't really work well under such requirements. Other commercial and proprietary systems were also considered. But our foundational tools have to be open. Open specifications, open protocols, open formats. Anything less, and the people relying on them can't extend, audit, or trust them. So we decided to build Lore from scratch, and we designed the data model to meet our requirements from the ground up. We made scalability and performance core tenets from day one, and this is where most of Lore's technical innovation lives.
Oh, praticamente essa tradução de uma meia hora, 40 minutos. E nada, leva mais de uma hora.
Without sacrificing workflow flexibility or storage efficiency.
Isso é interessante.
And Lore will grow with you, from a zero-config, single-service setup for small teams, all the way to multi-region, multi-million user deployments like UEFN. without requiring your team to fundamentally change how you work. At the heart of Lore is an efficient, content-addressed data store. Every file, every directory, every revision is identified by what it contains, not where it lives. Identical pieces of data are only stored once. Lore gives you direct access to that storage platform, so you can build your own applications and pipelines on top of it.
Oh,
Version
gostei.
control
Você pode
uses this
fazer
storage
a própria
platform
aplicação
to let you work on multiple things in parallel, switch between them
em
freely,
paralelo.
and collaborate in safe, isolated spaces without worrying about how it scales.
Pode fazer colaborações
Lore's
também.
sparse, binary-first storage architecture fetches only the data you actually need for the revisions and branches you work with, supporting projects of any size. Large binary data is stored in smaller fragments, allowing partial deduplication and highly efficient parallelized data transfer of any file. That same data model is what lets Lore scale out across the infrastructure. As you grow, Lore lets you transparently add layers of additional servers from the local machine out through edge and regional caches and up to a durable global store. And because access is authenticated and authorized at every layer, that scale never comes at the cost of control. Every server enforces the same access policies. For a globally distributed team, that means that users in different regions can hit their nearest cache, and the global source of truth is never the bottleneck. Everything Lore does, data storage, version control, is exposed through a single complete API. And on top of that API, we built the tools you would expect. A command line interface, a desktop application, and in the near future, an integration in Unreal Editor. And these tools are all built on the same API and library. This API-first design makes Lore easy to extend and integrate into any development pipeline. Your tools and applications can easily use Lore through the API in the language you want to use. Though we're just scratching the surface here, I hope this gives you a sense of the power and potential of Lore. And it's already used in production environments. It powers the UEFN ecosystem, where it's been known until now as Unreal Revision Control, providing version control and data storage for everyone's content pipeline. We have already started transitioning to use Lore as the primary version control system for development within Epic, and we plan to be fully using Lore by the UE6 launch. We built Lore to address scalability and efficiency challenges we have at Epic, and as we talked with many of you, we heard similar challenges echoed across the industry. And that led to a bigger realization. If we're trying to foster a truly open ecosystem, one we all build together, then a system shaped behind closed doors would fall short. And that's why we're announcing Lore as open source today. All the source code... Thank you. All the source code, along with documentation of data formats and protocols, are now permissively licensed under an MIT license and free to use. This release shouldn't be viewed as a perfect or complete package, but as an invitation to you to extend it, challenge it, and help shape it into something even more powerful together. So, if you're interested in learning more, head to lore.org and come to my session later in the show for a deep dive discussion on Lore's architecture. And with that, I will hand it back to Tim.
Awesome. So that is the first two of our next generation permissively licensed open source releases, and the first of many to come as we go about building more and more standards for interoperability for the future of gaming. And now I'd like to go and talk about the game business, which is in a time of both crisis
Agora vamos falar
and
de
also opportunity.
negócios
On the
de jogos. Vamos ver.
upside,
Game
there's a new
business.
generation of gamers coming in with new tastes in games, and they're playing games at a higher rate than any previous generation before. And the biggest games like Fortnite are once again growing and thriving. But underneath this, there's a serious challenge to AAA developers, and that's that a huge number of the new releases of major games are failing now. We're seeing often hundreds of millions of dollars of dev cost, followed by tens of millions of dollars of revenue, and the dev costs are continuing to grow. It feels to many like a tidal wave is sweeping over the AAA game business. I'd like to back up, everybody has their theory for why this is happening, but I'd like to back up and identify kind of the key generational changes and trends that are behind this. Because if we want to come up with an honest solution, we have to accurately identify the problem. And one of the key trends is that gaming is increasingly becoming socially driven. In the old days, it was you decide to play a game, you download it, you may play it by yourself, or maybe play multiplayer with whatever strangers show up. Nowadays, it's much more about you getting together with your friends and then deciding what to do together online to play a game or experience. And this social increasing angle of gaming is creating a massive advantage for big games and big ecosystems because a game with a lot of players is much more likely to contain a lot of your friends, and a long-established game with a huge player base has a much easier job of retaining players than a new game has of attracting new players. Thus, we've seen a lot of the major new multiplayer games not gain a sufficient community and momentum to survive, though in the past they might have. The other big change that's affecting gaming is that the economy is shifting from buying games to buying things in games. And whether you're a fan of this or not, the arithmetic of it is undeniable. And this is another thing that reinforces the success of very large existing ecosystems in games and makes it ever harder for new entrants to get in. And that is if you've been playing a game for a long time and it has a huge player base, then you can buy with confidence knowing that the things you purchase will still be useful to you days, weeks, or years later. Whereas when a new game comes out, it's a much more difficult decision to spend. You're not sure if you're going to play it next day, next week, next month, and are much less likely to spend. And the final trend that's affecting gaming is that the market for players' attention has become extraordinarily competitive, more so than I've ever seen before in my lifetime when we were competing with lame television and other things. Nowadays, there's all kinds of social media platforms, as well as things like prediction markets that trend almost into vice, all competing for people's times, all very effectively. And so to overcome these trends, the game industry, whether we like it or not, is reorganizing itself. And there are kind of two big predictions for the future as these problems reverberate throughout the industry. One view of the future is that Roblox grows and eats gaming. A lot of people are saying this online. But what you have there is a centralized platform with a single gatekeeper that commoditizes all content, takes more than 70% of revenue, and has 450 million users on board. And so that's a real challenge to game developers. But we believe in a very different future, and a much brighter one for the people in this room, and that is that a future of high-quality gaming rising to the challenge and linking up our content, linking up our communities, and linking up our economies to deliver fun and to serve gamers with great games in a way we've never done before. And to accomplish that, we're going to all need to change the way we build things. We're going to need to build better games, we're going to need to build them more efficiently, and we're going to need to design up front and build for connected games, where all of our player bases are connected socially and our economies are connected, so that players, instead of seeing these as isolated products, see them as part of a global ecosystem that all game developers participate in together. We want to work with all of you and with all of the game developers in the industry to achieve this together. The things we built with Unreal Engine 6 are our technological foundation for it. And we believe that this is a big challenge that we all have to rise to. We need to win the competition for players' time, not only against other games, but also against YouTube and TikTok and everything else that people are doing online. And this was very much on our minds when we set out about building Unreal Engine 6. And it's also what was on the minds of really close partners like Disney and Lego and other AAA game developers when we've been building increasingly close partnerships to them to build this together. And it's very clear, Fortnite, 80 million monthly active users. That's quite a lot, but we realize that this is not enough for Epic to do it alone. To build the ecosystem of the future, we're going to have to build it together. And I think the thesis for that is very optimistic, that between all of us and the world's best games, many of which use Unreal Engine, and many of whose developers use Unreal Engine, and many projects, we have billions of active users. And so we have the opportunity to form up into Team Open and to define the future of gaming together again. And that's exactly what we want to accomplish in this generation together with you. So that's what we're doing. Thank you very much for coming here to Unreal Fest. And remember, where else in the world can Fortnite creators get together with AAA game developers and filmmakers and architects and car designers and people at Lockheed Martin who are designing things they're not even allowed to talk about here, and actually speak the same language, the language of Unreal and content and code and development. So I hope you have a great time and have a great opportunity to meet up with lots of people. Thank you very much.
Galera, esse foi o evento da Unreal Engine e eu gostei muito do que falaram sobre a engine, que vai mudar, né? Muito obrigado a todos por me acompanharem no dia de hoje. Nos vemos daqui a pouquinho com mais um evento, daqui a pouquinho às 7 da noite. Muito obrigado, valeu, falou e eu fui. Nos vemos até o próximo vídeo, daqui a pouco às 7 da noite.
Interromper transmissão. Adicionar transição config quadros per live, 1 hora 46 minutos e 12 segundos.
Bom, 2 horas, galera. Porra.
Interromper
bastante
transmissão.
Bom. Gostei muito do evento, galera. Do comecinho e do final. Começaram a falar da Unreal e tudo isso. Quando falou do jogo do Xbox, aí cagou. Por quê? Foi o pior da transmissão. O restante tudo foi maravilhoso. Agora sim, vou ficando por aqui. Muito obrigado. Até o próximo vídeo. Valeu, falou. E eu fui. Muito obrigado. Até o próximo vídeo. Tchau, tchau.
Loading.